All right, James, we're on live. I'd just like to welcome everybody to Awaken Conversations. This is our 5th conversation, and today we have James O'Sullivan. And what we're going to be talking about. Can you hear me there okay, James?
I can. It's perfect, very clear. Yeah, how am I?
Yeah, you're good. So, James, I suppose just to give everybody a bit of background about yourself and kind of what you've been doing up to this point in terms of a lot of the activist movement stuff that you've been doing.
Yeah, so I've been an activist now for over 10 years, and I had my own particular awakening through a very violent event when I was 24 years of age. So when I was 24, I was kidnapped from a garage here in Tramore, where I grew up, and I was held captive for 7 hours. I was beaten pretty badly and almost died. And I suppose I had kind of a crisis, a spiritual crisis at that stage of my life, and was looking to survive it. And it made me to reassess my life and what am I actually doing on this planet, and why is there so much violence and hatred, and why are so many people stuck in a life where they're not happy and capable of doing things that didn't make much sense to me really at all, and a lot of anger, hatred, confusion, all the negative emotions really, so for that was a big wake-up call for me, and I went down a spiritual a long time, and then I had to heal from the trauma, which kind of showed itself about 7 years later. And I was working in IT, and I went off to Australia and came back after 4 months and got into IT again, and into sales, and worked in sales for a number of years, and realized that I was at nothing here and got very stressed, and I ended up in bed for 2 days with stress, and realized this is no way to live, and there must be more to life than this. And the 2008 financial collapse happened, and I started to study that and what's going on here. And then the bank guarantee happened in 2010, and I got involved in activism from there really. So I got involved with other people on the quays here in Waterford City, and we set up a camp and got involved with the Occupy camp. And just previously to that, I'd set up a group called the Free Men of Waterford, and a group studied the law, sovereignty, and that was connected in with a website called Tramore, and Kevin Flanagan was involved in setting that up back in the day as well. So that seems to be all very relevant now in 2022. So I kind of studied all that stuff 10 years ago, and it's been very helpful to have had that information and have had a journey through the legal system, the court system, financial system, and I had to go and study everything to protect my finances in my home, which I'm still in my home today. So I'm sitting from the home, which the bank's been trying to get off me since 2010, I suppose. They've been looking to repossess the home since then. So that's where it all comes from with me.
You first came on my radar before Christmas with regard to ideas you had around common law. I think you were friends with Judith, and I think Judith, you did something in Galway.
That's right, yeah.
So, is that tied into how you approached kind of protecting your home?
Absolutely. So, the common law is just natural law. So, like, you have the natural law, which is law of people, which is God's law, and then you've got law of corporations. And so, the government is a corporation, it's a service corporation, and they trick people into believing they're a corporation, a dead entity, which comes from the birth certificate. So a small man is created from your birth certificate when you're born. The parents are led down the garden path into believing they have to, by law, sign paperwork on behalf of the child that is born, creates a legal entity, which is the all caps name. So for me, it would have been all caps James O'Sullivan. My parents didn't know any better, including yours, Jerry, and everybody else's, and they're just doing what they believe was the right thing, and people to this day still do it. And it's just to create a mirror of you in the legal financial world, and legal and finance is all connected. It's all the same. The judge is actually acting as banker in the courts. You'll really see it in the circuit and the high courts. They work for the banks, they don't work for the people. So once they have that, the parents basically give up jurisdiction of your legal title and entity to the state, and the state is part of the greater estate, which comes from the City of London and ultimately the Vatican before that. So it all comes under the canon law jurisdiction going back 2,000 years and beyond. So we're all legal slaves under that system. And if you want to be able to differentiate between the legal person and the natural person, you really have to know what you're talking about, and your paperwork has to be really bang on, and you have to understand contract law, and you have to understand trust law. So an awful lot of people go into the common law stuff, and they go into court and they start saying, I'm this and I'm that and I'm sovereign, and the judge just laughs at you, and then he just holds you in contempt of court and lock you up if you push it too hard. Because if you don't make it very clear that you understand the difference between the natural person and the legal person, which they understand, and not many other people in the court know the difference, to be honest with you. Really, it's only the judge, the registrar, and barristers, top barristers will actually know, and specific barristers would know the difference. Everyone else, they don't know the difference, including a lot of barristers that I'm involved with in this country don't know the difference. They think that everything is legal, that criminal is legal, and civil is all legal. And in the world it is, but it's not true. And so my job is to clearly separate and define the difference between a natural person and a legal person. And ultimately it comes down to your personal trust, which was created from the birth, the live register of birth. And they create a persona, a legal persona, which then is used for your benefit, but mostly for the benefit of the state in paying taxes. You pay taxes into a common trust, and when you pay taxes into the common trust, then everyone is a beneficiary of that trust, and the state holds the wealth in trust. And when you're going into court, what they're doing is they're setting up something called a temporary trust, an express trust in your name. When they call the name out, like James O'Sullivan, and you stand up, what you're saying is that I'm here on behalf of the trust, and they want to be the beneficiaries and the executors of the trust, and they are making you trustees, and you have to change that. And if you don't change that, 99% of the people that go into courts have no notion about this. If you don't do that, then you're literally the trustee. They're the beneficiary and executor of the trust, and have been since your birth. And you have to flip the jurisdiction. You have to completely change that around, and that's what I do with paperwork before I go into court. You have to win before you go in. That's the whole key to it.
So in terms of the way you approach it, like the simple question there is what are you proposing, that people shouldn't register births as register a birth with the state?
No, I'm not suggesting that people don't register. What I'm suggesting people do is to actually inform themselves about what the state has done. This is going back to this SKV trust that was created in 1666, where they declared everyone dead. The City of London was burnt to the ground, and they declared everyone dead. And if you didn't come back and claim your trusts, well, then they just assume that you're lost at sea. And that's the system that they have. The system that's in place is not a harmonious natural system of law. It's actually based in deceit. And if you have any illusions about that, all you have to do is to listen to how they speak in these courts. It's all about praying to their gods, and their God is not our God; it's a different God. And the idea of being trained by a barrister is known as deviling, and the barrister that trains you as an apprentice master, that tells you all you need to know about the legal system.
Well, it tells us something. I don't know that it tells us everything, but what I would say, it's an interesting way to approach looking at it. I would say definitely, but like how do you view the legal system then, as it is, as an entity carries out a rules-based system in a country. Like, how do you view that?
It's a system based on deception. It's not honest, and it's controlled by a very small group of people, and not in this country. I've been in the High Courts and I used judges who were brought in from London, and with a very clear upper class posh London accent. And I was sitting there with Jim Core and other activists who were there to support a man called Maud Dibb back in the day, who was accused of crime for sending a DVD into a trial after the 7/7 event, and he was standing there in handcuffs with a version of the Irish Constitution, and he held it up, and the judge clearly said that we don't recognise that in this, So the whole is based on lies and deception. They never tell you what jurisdiction you're under when you go into it. That the jurisdiction that particular individual was under was not Irish law. So they can bring in barristers because they're under the Bar Association. They can bring in barristers from the UK anytime they like it, and they can extradite people whenever they feel like it. So it's all smoke and mirrors. And the legal system.
I get that, but what I mean is the day-to-day functioning of a society requires a legal system. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So what the issue, if issue is the right word to have, with this huge kind of idea, is how would you propose, on a blank sheet, if you had a blank sheet and you were starting as a society tomorrow morning, James O'Sullivan, how would a legal system fit into
it? I would get rid of the legal system completely, be gone, and you'd have to start from scratch, and you'd have to do it in small groups of people that are acting in honor. So we wrote documents to Stephen Donnelly, acting as Minister for Health. We wrote to the man, a group of us in Cahir recently, last year, starting on 21st of December. And we created our own court when we did that. And people can do this. Anyone can create their own court. You don't, just because the legal system has the monopoly on law, it doesn't make them all the law. They just have the monopoly on it. Anybody can create law themselves. 50 people, 30 people, 100 people can create their own law. And it's all about who holds the law and how do you enact anything that comes out of the decision-making process. That's where you get stuck. Okay. So,
well, you're going to get stuck pretty quickly there.
But it all depends. It depends on what sort of law you're dealing with and what sort of contracts. All law is based on contracts at the end of the day. It comes down to contracts.
Yeah, I get that, but like if every 50 people are creating a court for themselves, or 100 people, or even 1,000 people, you've got a 5 million people in the country. So you have thousands, you've potentially thousands of courts. Then, if something like that were to replace, and one court might, you could see how that could run into significant issues pretty quickly.
You have to have principles of engagement, principles of law. I mean, the ancient Irish had their own system of law that was very sophisticated, called the Brehon law, and the Druids would have held the law. So they would have met up, regularly, and they would have had a synod and would have met, and they would recite the law with each other to make sure that everybody was in step with the law, and the law would have been the same everywhere in the country. There might have been different jurisdictions, and there would have been local chiefdoms, but they would have been related, a lot of them, through their ancestry, and so the laws would have been pretty much the same, and the idea would have been to make sure that everyone is not after going off in their own direction. So from what I can see, the system is so broken at this stage, it's so corrupt at this stage, and I witnessed this for years, and I literally sat in courts for years just to watch their behaviour, watch the behaviour of the judges, the barristers and solicitors, and it became very obvious to me that the system is beyond repair. You can't fix it, because the system of law that's in place, first of all, it's not our law, it's foreign law, and it doesn't fit with the sovereign people on this land. It doesn't work for us, and it's been created in a way that only serves the elite. And I've seen this many times. I've seen people go into courts and have all of the evidence, facts and evidence before a judge, and the judge just ignores absolutely everything in relation to their houses and getting their house repossessed, and they just don't care. They're not operating under any sort of law anymore. That's the way I see it. They're just not. They're just looking after their own interests, and their own interest is the large corporations that are behind the scenes. So we don't have any choice anymore but to establish law from scratch. And obviously it's not going to be, totally functional at the start. It's going to be more philosophical at the start and ideas at the start. And it would literally be people just sitting down, having conversations with each other and coming up with suggestions and putting those suggestions into action and seeing what the outcome of that would be. So if you had, say, 20 different groups around the country and they were all just sitting with each other and working through problems that they can resolve themselves without having to go to the courts that exist on this land, which you don't see justice really that I see in most cases. You could sit down. You say, for example, you get a couple that were breaking up and there was money involved in that. You get a mediator to do that. That system is already there. It's already in place. People are just not aware. You don't actually have to go to the court to get all that resolved. The only winners.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the bread and butter rules based stuff. Your car fines, your public order offences, we practically speaking, we have whatever, we have your jail sentences for assault, sexual crimes against children, murder, how do you said it would take, for example, I thought what you did was interesting. I also didn't really agree with it. But in terms of the letters sent to Simon Donnelly, right? And I read them and I thought, very well thought out and very put out. But so basically what you're saying in that scenario is that you created a court or a kind of that the signatories of those letters were in essence acting in common law or some fashion like that on behalf of who?
On behalf of the people that came and sat there.
Right, okay.
Their consciousness and their awareness, and we're not saying it's anybody else outside the group, like. We're saying on behalf of the people that convened the courts that we say this. I can't speak for Jerry O'Neill because he wasn't there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that's but that's not. Yeah, well, okay, that's fair enough. Because you don't speak for me, and even if you did speak for me, you definitely probably don't speak for the 80 or 90% of people that are not on our wavelength at all. In terms of that.
The point of the exercise was to create awareness around that we are not happy with what's happening over the last number of years, and that the government making decisions on behalf of us that we did not agree to in any way, shape, or form, and that they suspended all rights, and we're making them very aware that we're not happy, and we put that in law, our own law.
Okay, so you felt that this had some effect on the Department of Health and Simon Donnelly. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The restrictions were lifted within. Notification of restrictions being lifted within 2 days of the final notice being sent in.
And you think it's that? And you think that's down to that approach?
Well, we had a visit in the restaurant where we hold the meetings. We had a visit from an assistant commissioner, the next day after the final notice was received. It was received at 8:30 in the morning on a Thursday. The following morning, there was a request for a meeting, and there was questions asked about what was actually going on. So it had an impact. To what degree, we'll never know.
Okay. Now, I just wanted to talk about that because I found it interesting. That approach. So you've set up the Irish People's Association. And that's kind of come out of the Cahir People's Association. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, the Irish People's Association was a concept that was created about 8 years ago. That came about from meetings I had around the country with Paul Byrne from Wicklow, and it wasn't the right time to do anything with it because there wasn't any desire or need for it. But since the COVID restrictions were put in place and the impact that's had on the greater society, and the small percentage of the population that would never agree to vaccinations or any restrictions, which might be 5% of the population, I suppose, or thereabouts. The Irish People Association then was sent around the country to different people, different groups, and for their own observation and analysis. And what I said was, this is just a concept. There's no website. There wasn't even an email address. There's nothing. There's no names on it. There's no ownership of it. It's just an idea that's been sitting there for some time now. And maybe it's the right time to have a conversation around this. Is this something that we should all build together?
Yeah. One of the things I find interesting about you, because you have really you've really interesting ideas from the stuff you sent me on and what I've read. I'll put this to you. I'm of the now. You might have more information on this than I do because you've been at the coalface since 2012 about visiting different groups. My sense of the situation at the moment is that there's a number of different groups trying to do something. Let's put it that way. In terms of coordinating people around the country. Now, one of the things for me is if you and the approach I'm looking at the most as being probably one that's, in my mind, the best one is the more decentralized any structure is, the better.
Yeah.
And that what's required at the moment is identification of the groups that are around the country and forming a loose, I had a conversation with somebody about this yesterday, and it was kind of her terminology that stuck in my head was basically identifying the groups, encouraging them to grow, and forming a loose communication structure for them to communicate with them. Because I'm of the opinion that going down, labeling ourselves early is not good in terms of whether it's a political association, an activist association, or something that's easy to portray in a negative way. And so I'm interested in your thoughts on how existing groups in the country, how you look at existing groups that are in the country that are formed, and what your suggestions are along those lines.
Well, I agree with everything you just said, and the idea of the Irish People Association is to make sure that all groups that exist now are autonomous and will remain autonomous. And the idea of the IPA is just a directory. That's all it is. There's nothing else to it than just that it should be left as that. So they're like all individual groups remain as cells that are not answering to anybody outside of themselves in any way, shape, or form, but that they are going to collaborate with other groups. And that's already been happening in the Cahir group. Like, for example, the Cahir group is now collaborating with the Dungarvan group. So that's a cross-border county initiative. And that has happened organically by Thomas turning up and sitting in on the groups. And we needed someone to help us to design the logo for the Cahir People Association. We're going to be doing a press release soon with the paperwork. And he did a fantastic job, and he did a lovely outline of the Cahir castle.
Okay, so, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's it.
But when you say the Cahir group are issuing a press release, what are they issuing a press release about?
About the 3-letter process that we've
Okay,
completed.
do you want to go into that a bit more?
So we're just going to explain what the 3-letter process is and why we did it in relation to where these groups came out. We're one of the groups that came out of the we call it a crisis. I call it a crisis, like the crisis that was created from the restrictions that were put in place from COVID. Whether you believe it's real or not, it's neither here nor there. It's a real thing, as in it had an impact on our lives, whether you believe the virus is real or not. And the press release would be an explanation of who we are and why we did what we did. And here's a link to the paperwork. And you can dismiss it, you can ridicule it, you can have any and all opinions you want about it, but it's there to be looked at. That's it.
So that is the Cahir. That is the Cahir People's Association, basically.
Yeah, that's just our group.
Right. So what I just wanted to clarify is that no other group is expected to sign up to that. That's not part of the not part of the IPA, will say. Now the fact that you've mentioned it as a directory, it completely makes something like that an IPA directory of different groups around the current country, as long as that is all it is, kind of thing, with communications between. I agree with you. I think something like that's exactly what's needed, whether that's online or offline. I don't really care. In terms of, some groups may not want their names to be known or whatever, but I think something like that, like a directory of the different groups around the country, is definitely a great idea.
It exists offline already, as in the Lighthouse initiative that's come out of Kinsale. You probably heard about that. But the green hearts that are going around the country, the green hearts on people's jumpers and t-shirts and stuff. So that's the Lighthouse initiative. That was there before any discussion about IPA. That was already there. So there's like lots of different flavors of what's going on. There's no one hard and fast solution here. It's multi-layered, multi-layered, multifunctional. And the idea is to allow people to come together in a safe way, to collaborate and cross-pollinate ideas, so we're not constantly reinventing the wheel all the time. Like, for example, in West Cork, there's groups down there that are way ahead with trust law. So they're looking at how can we protect our assets, our money, our property. How can we buy land? How can we set up community trusts? All that sort of good stuff. And so they're way ahead on that. They're also way ahead on education, homeschooling, educating in forest environments, all this sort of stuff. That's all going on too. And so in Cahir, we're focusing mostly on how we're going to create a system of law here to protect ourselves. That's what we've been doing, writing the government in relation to that as an exercise. So that's what we've been doing. And in Dungarvan, what they're doing is they're going to buy a unit to have a space for people to come from all over, to have Kayleys and different things going on, and workshops and all sorts of different initiatives. So like what's happening organically is that all the groups in different parts of Munster are doing different things and similar things, and some are ahead and some are behind in different areas, depending on whatever is their desire in those groups. And so why would you want to interfere with that? That would be a bad idea. You can't interfere. And so at the meeting that we had in Cahir recently, on the 27th of March, I was just a facilitator, and I just held space. I'm a trained facilitator. That's what I do. I hold space. But the facilitator is the one that holds space for everybody else and allows the energy to flow around the group to make sure that everybody gets heard and that people can break out into groups where they want to be able to discuss their ideas. And it's a social network, really, and so people can come together and meet people for the first time. So I invited everyone to come up from each group. Delegates were invited. So there were 7 delegates from each group were invited from every county in Munster. And I just said, come up and just talk to everybody and tell them why you're here, who you are, and what you're doing. That's all I did. They all came up, they said their piece, and they sat back down again. And then we had breakout groups, and we wrote everything up on the board. What you want, shout it up, went up on the board, and all the ideas went up. We consolidated down to 5 tables, and everybody went in upstairs, downstairs, and they just met new people, and the energy was electric in the building. It's incredible.
I was talking to somebody that was at it, and they said, yeah, similar to what you're saying there about that event. So I do think there's need for more event type situations that bring, that give an opportunity for people to meet each other across various different strands of life, whether that's sustainable farming or, like you're saying there, stuff on people, the legal stuff you're doing, music, arts, all of it. So I suppose my next question then is, you brought up the lighthouse, what's it called again? The lighthouse.
The Lighthouse Initiative, basically,
Yeah.
the group in Kinsale are driving that on, and West Cork and Kinsale are collaborating on that.
Now, somebody sent me a document from them, and it's very detailed and practical stuff in it. And again, is that how do you see initiatives like that evolving?
Well, everything seems to be organically evolving, Jerry. It's like people are just meeting. They go to markets, they go to festivals, they go to talks, they go to events like I set up, and they just cross-pollinate with other groups, and they just organically meet other people that are on the same frequency as them. And if you have a connection with the person, you change numbers and so on and so on. That's how the Lighthouse Initiative started, and it's all over the country now. It's up in Connacht, it's up in Galway, it's everywhere. The women there, they travel all over the country, and they're asked to go places and do talks. And just like I'm asked to go to, I've been in every county in Munster doing talks on common law now, and I do an interactive role-playing talk. So people are not talking at people. I'm sure they're doing something similar. I haven't been to a Lighthouse Initiative, but everything seems to be just organically happening, from what I can see.
Okay. No. As long as none of my concern is any of these becoming like a centralized system of control of groups.
Yeah.
And from what you're saying is that won't happen. And if that's the case, that's great.
It can't happen, Jerry. It can't happen because before I developed the idea of the IPA concept with other people. We studied all different aspects of how people interact with each other, and there's a very interesting idea around the number of 150, right? So that's called Dunbar's. Robert, he studies primates in nature, and he studied humans, and he realized that once numbers get beyond 150, what happens is in nature they split off. So once it gets to 160, 170, 180, split off into another group, and they'll go to different parts of the forest. And the Amish actually would split off and form another group. As you know, the Amish built communities together as a team, functional team, and they would break off and go, okay, we'll buy you land, I'll help you buy land, and we'll help you then to get up and running again, break off and create a new group. Because it starts to become bureaucratic once it goes beyond one. Now, an interesting thing is that 1,000 years ago, at the time of Brian Boru, the average community size, they say, was 150. So it's a natural.
Yeah, it's 100.
I believe what happened was that through conquest, the people that control everything and who created the states that we live in, right? It's all a fiction anyway. It's all in the minds of the people that control us. That was done through intergenerational psychopathic behavior, through warfare, and that I came from fear of loss, losing territory, losing wealth, and so on. Right? It's not a natural way to be. We're not supposed to be in fear all the time. It's actually very damaging for our immune system and nervous system and our overall well-being. We're supposed to be active and aware and helping each other, being cooperative. And when you go into danger, you go into your fight or flight part of your body, which is into your sympathetic mode, to get you out of danger quick. So if something comes out of the fire, you need to move. You're not going to have a little conversation. Maybe I should get up out of the fucking seat now and move. You're going to fucking move and think about that afterwards. Did I move at the right time? You're just going to move. And you're stuck in this fight or flight response. You see the levels of anxiety and fear and depression and so on are like through the roof. I know because I'm a therapist 8 years, and that's an awful lot of my work is to help people to clear out of this unconscious and fear that's locked into their system. A lot of it's got to do with listen to radio and TV that's in the negative all the time, which feeds this fear. So we've been programmed with fear for a hell of a long time to keep millions of people stuck in a state that's unnatural for control. So we can't do anything about that system. That system's dying anyway, spiraling into a death cycle that it's all doing that. So I just focus on the positives. I don't go into all that stuff. There's enough people talking about that all day, every day. I look at, well, what can we actually do that brings us back to our true nature again? So it's about small groups coming together, which organically happen, freedom groups. And I got start getting phone calls from people because they know it's into the common law stuff. And so they asked me to come and do talks, and I started doing talks. And I asked them, well, how did you get going? What's going on? And it's the same everywhere. They started off as freedom groups. We're not happy with the restrictions, not taking the vaccinations. And we just need to organically evolve into something that's a protected structure. So we need some sort of structure, but we don't need a structure for people outside the group telling us what to do. And even in the group that I'm involved with, I wouldn't dream of trying to tell them what to do, because you'd be told very quickly, you're not going to fucking tell me what to do. We're all here because we choose to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. But the idea of decentralized groups would be that if you've 10 autonomous groups who are loosely linked to each other, within that group, one person can be involved with 3 other groups within the circle, and a different person within that group can be involved with 4 other ones, and it doesn't necessarily destroy the integrity. It doesn't destroy the integrity of the group, because they're not labeled. They're not labeled by their identification with any of the outside groups. It's something they give their attention to. The primary group that we all spend our lives in is the group we're in. So we're going to spend 90% of our time in that group, if that's what we choose to do with the rest of our life. If you're building a group, and I agree with you about the freedom stuff. A lot of people in these groups, myself included, have never thought too much about this until COVID, and they're loosely freedom. They started as freedom group, and then some of them are evolved into, well, there's lots wrong with these existing systems that we didn't really open our eyes to until now, and so there's all different. And there, some of the groups are, some of them are middle of the road, some of them are out there, they're more closer to truther groups and stuff like that. There's a place for all of them, in my view of the world. It's just I'm looking at this from the point of view of building something new and separate, and I think you are too, rather than trying to knock down the doors of the old system to ask them to let you in. I'm not really for that, because I think that is dying, like you've outlined there. My concern when I'm thinking about this is how to protect the integrity of what you've already built, because if you take it from the point of view that people outside won't necessarily appreciate what is going on and will try to destroy it from the outside and not the inside. And the simplest way to do that is to cut the head off of a centralized system of structure, and everybody associated then with that is labeled under the same, tarred with the same brush, and you lose what everybody loses. So, but based on what you're saying, we're pretty much similarly minded on what should happen, what the things that kind of should happen. And I was very interested in this evolution project and the Aerobank concepts as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, so what happened was that in 2010, the bank guarantee for me was a big wake-up call. I was very angry about that, because they put over 40% of the European debt from bankers fucking gambling on the Irish people of 5 million people. I was absolutely raging over this, and I couldn't understand why more people weren't as angry as I was. And I ended up moving up to Wicklow. I met Paul Byrne at a conference, a weekend, a facilitated process called Ireland's Best Possible Future, organised by the Awakenireland group based in Cork. And went up to the Bog Hill Centre, and it was very well organised, and it was very free-flowing, and there's some brilliant people from all over the world were there. And we actually started off by had a right trial session. The first night got pretty drunk on fucking poaching, just to get things going. And then we got 2 days of a process that changed my life. I ended up moving up to Wicklow and sharing a partner with Paul Byrne, who's an incredible man, and he just stood up and talked. He talked about LENR technology. There's low energy nuclear reaction, and I don't know where that is right now, but it was a solution in the future for energy problems, safe. And he spoke off the top of his head for half an hour, and he was so engaging. And we became very good friends, and then moved up to Wicklow, and we went all over the mid east, and met up with like Ben Gilroy and all of the DDI main people, and other groups at the time that were very active and wanting change and didn't know how to go about it. And we followed these groups. I got involved in DDI, even though I'm not a political person, I never was. But I became a facilitator because they couldn't sit down with each other. And I was trained in that. And I showed them how to sit and hold space together and have proper meetings. And then it started to take form, take shape. And it went on from there to become a political party, but then was attacked from the inside and destroyed, because that's what they do.
What was DDI again? Sorry, DDI. What was that?
Direct Democracy Ireland. It was based on very good principles. It was very good. It was based on very good principles. Everyone should have a say. Everyone should have a vote. And in the system that we have, everyone doesn't have a say. You have people that come along and they kiss your babies every 5 years, and then they don't see them again after that, unless you hound them at their local office. Sometimes it depends. You might get some sort of result. But we don't have a system of democracy in this country. No system in Europe has, no country in Europe has a functioning democracy. They have a system of direct democracy in Switzerland. That's where direct democracy comes from. They have cantons there all over Switzerland. Switzerland is made up of many different races of people in the Swiss Alps. And so the canton system is there. And what they do is they have a very simple system where if they want to have a vote on something, they have a discussion about it for a period of time. And then they will meet in their local town halls and villages and put up their hands, and they will decide on what they want for their communities, which feeds back up into the country. So they have a constitutional democracy, and they also have a direct democracy, and they work both hand in hand. So it's more sophisticated system there than what we have here. We just had to break away from the British Empire, and I think our ancestors did a very good job, and considering that the empire was so powerful at the time. And we have to just finish the job now, and we have to finish the job in a peaceful way. That's the way I see it. We have to do it in a way where, let's make an idea that is creative and fun and based in what you did. And my hat's off to you. You did a fantastic job in doing entertainment, crack, poetry, music, storytelling, comedy, right? Bringing the best people, artistic people, the creatives together to create what we really want. And if enough people do that, it'll be unstoppable. Unstoppable, because you're creating space where you're creating dynamic energy, where other people don't want to engage in a political debate, will want to be part of that. And that's what I see happening. I think it's just, I just think it's going to happen. That's something you can force. You can't force that.
No, you can't. Where do you see the next steps then, James, in terms of immediate practical steps in bringing groups together? Without we'll say the labels of an IPA or a lighthouse project. Say I'm in a group, argument's sake, I'm in a group. Actually, a good example is there's a group in the Midlands. I was talking to a woman there recently, and she wanted to have Lawyers for Justice down to give a speech to the group. And while I was talking to her, she said, "Oh yeah, we have people come to our group once a month, and we book out. We gather in the actual town hall, and people come and give us presentations." And I thought to myself, that's brilliant. Yeah, a brilliant kind of simple way to do things, and get information as well from in-person information from, and like they've had like Eddie Hobbs, Dr. Vincent Carroll, they've had loads of different people at this at these events. And I'm thinking to myself that if I was in a group and I wanted to run an event, well, say I was in a group in Louth, I wanted to run an event, or I wanted to do something, where do you see the next step is to kind of event-wise in terms of how groups might get together?
Well, we're organising a festival for the Munster IPA now, because we don't have a national, because we can't have a national IPA because we're not involved in those groups. You get me? So I'm actually, I was up today looking at land near Mahon Falls in the Cumber Mountains in Waterford today, and we're organising a membership event for the Munster IPA, a festival, a 3-day festival, bringing everybody together to, again, just for the idea of, we're going to have a tent for workshops and talks and dialogue, and Paul Byrne is going to do the evolution project there. I didn't finish that. I need to go back to that actually. And we're going to have obviously a music tent then and a stage outside as well. So there'll be like Kaylee sort of stuff going on, and there'll be a stage then for kind of bigger acts and bands.
That sounds like a great idea. How do you get the word out about that? Is it just through the Munster groups?
Well, see, what I did was, when I asked people to come to the Munster IPA meeting, I asked them, do you want to do this? Do you guys want to do this? They all can step into. And they said yes. I said, well, if you give us your email, we will the paper that we want looking to have ratified if you want to do that. And then we're going to send you out any information that comes to us about organising events. And so we're just going to email everybody and go, do you want to be part of this festival? Does everybody in your groups want to have a say in how this thing actually is? Take an awful lot of pressure off people. You do a small group to organise a small festival. It's only small. It's going within the province to go, okay, well, we'll have so many tickets to sell. We'll sell them within our own groups. We make it a private membership driven thing. And then here's the price of the ticket. Here's what needs to be done. What do you want to do? Let's keep the costs down and let's all create it together. Let's be creatives together for this festival. That's what's going to happen.
And is there membership fee to being in the months in this IFA in the concept? I know you're only at the concept phase of it. Do you envisage a membership fees or how do you envisage that?
We're not at that stage yet, so it's literally like you said. Let's keep everything nice and fluid. Let's not put too much of a structure in place at the start. Let that organically happen over time. That might be something that comes out of dialogue over the 3 days at the festival. So the idea is to bring. See, when we had the meeting on the 27th, that was just delegates. Okay, so the festival will bring in the membership of those cellular groups. So they'll all come in together, and then they will camp on site, and then get to walk around and meet people from all other groups and link up and have a crack, have a sing song, have a drink, whatever's going on, have dialogue, play together, music, storytelling, whatever, and then dialogue. And then let's see what comes out of the dialogue, and it'll be organic, and it'll be up on the board who wants to talk about what, and let's just see what comes, and it'll organically become what it will be. It's not for me to say, it's not for anyone in the Cahir group to say. We are the Cahir People's Association. We're only the hosts of the Munster IPA meetings, and that's just now. That could be anywhere in Munster anytime. And that's the way.
How many groups do you think you have? How many groups, not ye, but how many groups do you think there are in Munster?
Well, I mean, I can only guess.
Like loosely.
Like in Cork, like we had representation of 4 groups because it's the biggest county. There was 2 from Waterford. There was 1 from Tipperary. There was 1 from Limerick. There was 1 from Clare. There was 1 from where else are we? Cork, Kerry. There was 1 from Kerry. But there's loads of groups. Like I'm not connected in with all the groups. So I mean, there's.
Oh no, I know. I understand that, but I'm just trying to get a sense of the size. I'm trying to get a sense of what's out there.
Well, I'm guessing. See, I keep hearing about more groups like every week. So like, it's manageable at the moment. You get me? Because they're small numbers. It's manageable, and I know most of the people that are the leadership behind the small groups. You get me? I just know them for a number of years. I know some of them for 10 years. So we're a family. Like that's what we are. We're a family, and because we're a family, there's trust there. We've been through this nightmare together, and we've created our own protection. It's protection. And now we're looking at acquiring land and building communities. And I was up in the Midlands the last 2 days, and we're looking at talking to hemp farmers and acquiring land and building communities. And this is what's going on all over the country. It's not just in Munster, it's organically happening everywhere. And that's the next step. And then learning about the law and how to move your wealth into a trust and so on to grow and protect what's there, because statute laws being put in place now to take all of our wealth away and to land people in their homes where a lot of people won't want that. And so if you don't want it, you should be able to say, I don't want that. That's not for me. That's okay. If you want to bring in people from other countries, that's fine. And I respect that. I'm not in favor of any war. It's there. It needs to be dealt with. I actually think it's a good thing that 100 years ago, there wouldn't have been any refugees in Ireland. It would have been people just dropping dead all over and starving. At least more humanity this time around when the war is happening in Europe and people want to bring them in. That's good. But at the same time, you can't ethnically cleanse the whole bloody country and take in 200,000 refugees. It's insanity. Our economy will be destroyed, and where are they going to go? They're going to start sleeping on the beaches. You know?
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So we have to. We have to protect have to protect our people. We have to protect our lands, our resources, our children.
Agree with you.
You know, we're at.
So you would see the so I suppose that takes us back into the evolution project again. So is that expansiveness you're talking about there out into actual building, buying land, building communities, having a school system, hemp farmers, all this kind of stuff. Is that part of what the evolution project is?
Or
does that fit in at all?
The evolution project is a multifaceted experience, and I've been to 2 of the events so far. And so what that is to teach people how to dialogue correctly, because a lot of time when people come together talking over each other, and you're not really listening. So there's listening, then there's active listening. A lot of people don't do active listening because they're waiting for their turn to speak. So they're not actually listening to you. And other people can pick up on that. And it ends up in resentment. You start feeling bad about the person. But ultimately, everyone's just trying to communicate. So it's about learning how to dialogue effectively, not just from the head, but from the heart as well. This is the key. And it trains people how to facilitate and hold space effectively and correctly so that everybody gets heard. Because if we're moving into a position where we're going to start investing in our future with people we don't know very well, you know, we have to make sure that the whole project is not going to fall on its arse, because a lot of people that have gone into communes and different things before, I've never done that, never wanted to, got bitten very badly because it became about egos, and it became about, you know, well, who's in control of this space? And it's normally someone that shouldn't be, because everyone should be in control of it in some way, shape, or form, depending on your skill set. Some people don't want to, you know, be a facilitator. They want to grow food. They want to look after the kids. They want to look after old people. They want to build. They want to just go and build stuff and go home again. Everyone has their own unique skill set to bring to the table. So that needs to be nurtured and protected. And you can't rush into building stuff unless you have a particular way of engaging. That's what the Evolution Project is. It's also a website. And the idea is to funnel all ideas into the website and to look at all the different ideas of what needs to be done, and then come to conclusions about what we all want to build as a collaborative approach, rather than constantly trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. So, for example, if a group in Aughrim, they're way ahead on a building projects and they've acquired land and they've already figured out all of the problems that come about by doing that, why does someone in Cahir need to make all the same mistakes? You know, you're wasting a lot of time. So the evolution projects will have gone through this process, and the ideas that come out of it will have gone to fruition. It's in there, but the idea is to create a project that can be observed, that people can buy into, observe it, and then dialogue about what's actually going on, pitfalls, results, and then it's not about, it's all transparent. Bringing the transparency rather than I did this, I'm not letting anyone else know because there's copyright infringements and so on and so on. I think we're moving out of that now. Moving out of that kind of ideology. I never really liked that myself. I think it's kind of a little bit kind of, oh, I'm terrified someone else can steal my idea. We rob everyone else's ideas all the time. People are natural mimics. It's what we do. Like, so it's, if you have small communities that are working together, the team, you know, having a dialogue process, not just where you have to drive someplace to do it, but it's an online idea where you have a functional website where the process is there. You do a combination of meeting up and doing facilitated meetings, as well as the process of inputting information onto a website. Then you got the best words going on, and you can, and if you go and you, so Paul's doing the evolution project in the Wicklow Lodge in Wicklow. You go there for a weekend, you learn how to dialogue, you meet people that you didn't meet before, then you go away, and then you can keep connected to those people that you met through the evolution website, and they'd be from all over the country. This is the idea. It's a natural, again, organic process.
And is there any projects close to kind of break ground?
With evolution project, no, it's very much in the early stages at the moment. It's very much in its infancy.
So it's basically training and facilitation at the moment.
Yeah, it's very much about dialogue. Really is about that.
Okay.
That's what
and so about. Basically the evolution is you go there, it's for like a weekend event, and it costs whatever it costs, and people kind of is it all different people that go to one of those weekends or facilitation events? And how are the people that go to that, do they know each other before they go to it, or is it bringing together different disparate group individuals?
The last weekend I went to, there was about 14 people there, and I knew 2 people. So
okay.
You know what I mean? Like, so this is the thing. It's like the cells of the butterfly. You know, when the caterpillar goes in and it changes its form, it breaks down into the imaginal cells, and the imaginal cells then create this amazing, beautiful butterfly. You know, and that's a beautiful thing. That's natural order of things. And when you try to control the outcome, Jerry, that's when it goes fucking pear-shaped. You're trying to control the natural flow of life and the order of things. And that's
that's what I want to make sure about anyone I'm talking to, that they're not doing that.
Yeah. So that was like from day one. When we drove around Dublin and Meath, and we met up with all these groups who were trying to make effective change in the political system. And we talked to people like Ben Gilroy, and we talked to other people like Ben that were connected to Ben and other groups. And we said, guys, you're wasting your time. I'm sorry, but you're actually wasting your time. The system is dead. And they weren't in a headspace to listen to us at that time. We knew it was dead. We talked it all out with other people as well. And we said, look, we just have to start the whole thing from scratch. We could see it's on a downward spiral. We could see it 10 years ago it was. You could see what workers were up to. They've created a false economy with derivatives and all the rest of it. And the money system is based on debt, and there literally is no solution to it. Using sticky tape to keep the whole world economy together at the moment. It's unlimited quantitative easing is all about printing money. It's coming to an end, and now looking to put us onto a digital currency. And with that, it's going to be a serious condition. Start off as a social credit system, a universal basic income, then bleeding into a social credit, and then we'd be like China and look for a global China. So this is it. So I'm not going to be party to that. They're going to pull the plug on the system sooner rather than later, and you'll have to use your QR code to get into supermarkets, and it's already happened in America, and I think there's one in the UK. We can only get in there with a QR code. The totality and tiptoe takes time, so that people won't revolt in mass. So this is David. I've talked about this for so many years. He's been absolutely right, but so much. And this is what's going on. And so I don't see any point in panicking or trying to rush something and rush creation and rush building communities, because they ultimately won't work. You have to allow things to develop and grow at their own time.
So, do you have a facility at the moment where it's where if somebody's watching this and they want to find out what groups are out there at the moment, do you have a facility that they can do that?
No, we have deliberately kept this very, very relaxed and casual and organically happening. There is no. I will give out one email address, munsteripa@protonmail.com, and you can send an email for more information to that, and that's all we've got at the moment. There isn't any.
All right, okay.
And we're going to keep it that way for some time, and we're going to see how things roll out over the next couple of months. And things are, I see things are just organically happening in a beautiful, beautiful way. Absolutely, every day is magic. This is magic happening all the time.
Yeah, it's good. You brought up there, you mentioned digital currencies. I again agree that their circumstances are going to mean that a digital currency is probably going to be rolled out in the next 12 to 18 months. And to that end, that brings us neatly to the concept of an Aerobank that was on one of the documents.
A genius called Jamie Dowling from Kilkenny came up with the Aerobank concept over 10 years ago as well. All at the same time, all this hive of ideas were floating around. And Jamie came up with a schematic, and he came up to myself and Paul in Wicklow, and we pushed back this massive schematic on the floor. Some financial heads down from Dublin to see if they could pick any holes in it. And they spent 3 hours going through every single aspect of it with Jamie and asking them questions, and they couldn't find any flaws at all in it. And he built the website, then he tested the website.
Sorry, I just was going to say to you again there, that concept out of, similar to what you were saying about the common law, is the Aerobank concept something that's outside of the system in terms of it's not, you wouldn't envisage whatever way that would work as being part of a bank that would be regulated by the central bank?
No, because the token-based system, it's not actual money. So the central bank only regulate money, and it's legal tender, and that's where you get caught with them. So it's a token-based system, and it's a peer-to-peer system. And it's funny because it was created before cryptos came on the scene, and it's more or less the same thing. So the idea of Aerobank is very simple. Is you have an account with Aerobank, you have so many credits. The IPA system will give you credit when you sign up. You get 1,500 credit, or 500 credits to start up, 500 credits thereabouts. That's the concept anyway, to use in the community, right? And you can use that for time sharing or for buying and selling goods, whatever you want to do. And so that's in your Aerobank accounts, and you get to use that currency. It's an actual currency. You get to use it. And so Jerry O'Neill is up in Dublin, or he's in Doolin, wherever he is, and Jerry puts up in the IPA network that I'm selling. I'm selling my bicycle. I want to sell it, and I'm going to sell it in the Aira is the currency, and I will. I'm looking. So Jerry's looking for 150 Airas for the bike. It's a closed circuit system, and I just go, "Hey Jerry, I'm looking for a bike. Will you take 130 for it?" And you go, yeah, done deal. We just exchange tokens. It's as simple as that. I go collect the bike. And it's an honor-based system. So I'm trusting that when I go to you, that you'll have the bike. And if you don't have the bike, you're going to get a mark on the IPA system based on your honor price. And everyone starts with a high honor price, and your honor price drops based on the Brehon, our ancient Brehon system. Very simple. You don't behave in an honorable way, you're getting a strike. And the internet works like that anyway. If you buy anything on Amazon or any of these websites, there is a score system there for all these websites for buying and selling goods for that exact reason, because you're not meeting people face to face. So there has to be an honor-based system. It's already evolved online. So we just use similar
where's the protection that some outside entity doesn't come in and take all your tokens? Like one of the benefits of crypto is because of the decentralized nature and privacy of it. That's the thing that drives regulators. The regulators crazy in we'll say with something like Bitcoin is you can shut it down one place, but the government can't get access to your crypto in certain instances. So we're told, so the theory goes. But how would, say you're successful, say an Aerobank was successful and it's got 50 million euros worth of tokens, what's to stop? How do you protect what's in it from both corruption within it, but more importantly, and what I would be thinking of is that someone just doesn't come in, swoops down in and says, right, we're taking over this?
It's going to have to be married with the crypto technology. So the blockchain technology is going to have to build into it. It hasn't happened yet.
So where it's at concept, say it's still a kind of conceptual. You haven't built it yet. Let's put it that way.
No, we haven't built it for a number of reasons, Jerry, because we want the people of Ireland to build this together as a team, and that will build trust. If I came around tomorrow and I went, hey guys, look, I got all the solutions for Ireland right now, everyone's going to go, fuck off. No, you don't, right? Simple as that. You know that's going to happen. So we just go, if people want to build this together, let's go and build it together. Let's do this together. And let's put our collective energy into building it together, and we'll imagine it the way we want. The concept that I have is only a concept. It's just there, sitting there. The final outcome would be very different. And that's the idea. Then everybody has a say, everyone has a share. And when you sign up, the idea is you get a share and you get a vote in the IPA, in your community trusts. And you get to decide where. So say, for example, I've got 5,000 credits, right? And you've got 10,000 credits, right? And when I buy your bike off you, 1% of that goes into the community trusts from my community. When you buy something off me, 1% of your trade goes into your community trust. It's got nothing to do with me, nothing. And you get to decide where that goes. And that's where the Evolution Project comes in, because it all gets tied in where the ideas come out of the Evolution Project, because that's where the Ideas Bank is. Bank of Ideas is the Evolution Project. It's all built in, it's connected in, and the ideas come out and you get to vote on the best ideas. So, okay, I want to see another plot being developed into an allotment there. Okay, that's where my money is going. So you start to fund that. So you have to do 10 trades that week, and then you just go click and my money goes there. And you actually have a say. You got a share and you got a say. And you got a share in the trust and you have a say. That's how you do it.
And of course, like there's nothing stopping from people. You don't just have to have one bank, basically.
Of course not. You can
have. Like there's nothing to stop a group setting their own stuff up. Like and I'm not trying to get down that. It's just I just want to get I just want you're a long way from where anyone would be in a position to pay for the tokens if the actual system of it isn't built yet. Is what I'm saying. So and again that's going to become more relevant as you figure out how many as you're building, growing, as we're all building and growing over the next months and years, as to the people that are in the various groups around the country. That will become evident what is needed based on them. And to be honest, probably an awful lot of the ideas are from people we haven't even met or heard from yet, because we just haven't they haven't had an opportunity to kind of get them out there yet. So I have a question there for you. Where do you see I see two underrepresented groups of people if you want to put it that way. Broadly speaking, if we all classify ourselves as, broadly speaking, freedom movement and not wanting to be part of the existing systems of government or here or around the world. I see, but just from an Irish perspective, and I'm just curious to get your opinion on this as to, one, I think we're lacking with people under 30 in all of these groups, young people, attracting more, not attracting, but like, I suppose one of the things about having events and stuff like that is to show them the life that you could have in what we're trying to build and that kind of stuff. And the other ones I'm actually concerned we don't see more of, because I know they've been very strong in Galway, is the Polish and Lithuanian communities in terms of they were very strong and outspoken during the heaviest of the lockdowns and all that malarkey that was going on before Christmas. I was just curious as to see how you thought of it, or what your views on it. Where are our strengths and weaknesses at the moment?
To get the young people involved, you have to create something new for them, and I think that music is a big part of it, because music gets into your unconscious, and when you write lyrics and you add powerful music to it, especially roots music. So I'm starting a band called The Awakening, and I have a number of members already. And what we're going to do is we're going to start writing lyrics and performing this music, and we're going to do a build. We're going to build the music from something very, very quiet at the start, like a bell just very lightly hit the bell, and we're going to build it up and then introduce lyrics and maybe a bit of a slow air in there as well, and build it up and build it up into a wall of sound with drums and bass guitar and the whole lot, right? And do it over maybe 5 or 6 or 7 minutes and have a very, very strong message in there. Do you want to read out some of the lyrics? I'll read out.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So this is something I have been working on for some time. It just came to me when I was listening to a band there in a festival a number of years ago in Waterford, the All Together Now festival. So it's called Rise. Irish people, get off your knees, open your chests so you can breathe. See the chain that binds your heart, find the key that breaks apart. The weakest link can hold the chain until your will ignites your flame. That burns so bright you alert the tribe to fill the void, and now I am alive! Rise, rise, get off your knees, see the flame and see it breathe. The flame so deep ignites your soul, no longer need to know control. Free your heart and free your mind, create your life with love so kind, and rise, 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 rise. So you had that with a big fucking drums and bass, a whole fucking lot, right? That sort of idea. Do you know what we didn't do with it? It happened to do.
Tell me this: you're a man that has you're a man that has lots and lots of exploding ideas. Is what I can gather from you. How do you just go with the flow of them in terms of pursuing them, in terms of how do you manage what gets your attention and what doesn't? Because you've named out about 4 different innovative ideas there. You know, evolution. You're talking about Aerobank. You're talking about IPA. You're talking about the band, the music, and you're also a health therapist. How do you manage all these ideas in your head? Or how do they get your attention?
They just come to me. I mean, those lyrics came to me literally in a minute. They just came straight through me, and I had to take out my phone and write them down. So I'm just being told what to do with it. It just happens, like, and I just tend to go with it, because I think a lot of it had to do with because I had near that experience when I was kidnapped.
That experience.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable talking about that experience?
Oh yeah, I can talk about that, no problem at all. Yeah.
What happened there, and how long were you kidnapped for, and how long did that was it hard? How did you deal with the trauma of that?
I was working in a garage when I was only young. I was only 23, and I was working in a garage in Tramore, and part-time. I had a full-time job. I was a computer programmer for Sun Life Financial in Waterford, and there was lads that were casing the garage, and one of the lads that was in the car that was casing the garage used to live next door and knew the movements of the people that worked there, and came at 9:30 when I was pulling in from behind the garage and guns and basically took charge of me and started a 7-hour journey of hell, and made me go in and take out of the till, decided to bring me off for a spin for 7 hours, tied me up and threw me in the boot of a car and bet me for 7 hours with golf clubs they found in the boot, and tortured me to an inch of my life, and broke my leg and bet me to the point of I was dead. I was dead for a period of time. I'm not sure how long I was gone, and came back. I came back with the voice of a bangarda, and I called out in the boot of the car, and she approached. I think it was a man was with her. They gave chase to the car. The car was so badly smashed up from the joyride car that the boot wouldn't even close. It was actually flapping up and down. So they gave chase of the car, and they bailed out left and right in the fields, and the vanguard came over and she opened the boot of the car, and I was lying in a pool of my own blood with my, and she screamed and unconscious again. Then I woke up and I was in an ambulance, and I was unconscious again. I woke up, and then I was being rushed through doors and like flashing lights like a scene out of VR. Then I was gone again, and I woke up again. I was surrounded by doctors, very concerned, and I was gone again. I woke up again, and they snapped my leg back and screamed in agony. And then I was gone again, and I woke up again, and I was in ICU, and I was gone again. They cut my clothes off me. Then I was gone again. I woke up again, and my parents were there. So this all happened over one night, and that one night had such an unbelievable impact on me, community. It was recorded as the most violent crime in the state. So my next door neighbour was superintendent of the Gardaí in Tramore at the time, and he came and he told me this, and he said, we'll make sure that the work of evidence is rock solid and we get these people, and they did. They got them, in fairness. So there's an awful lot of bad feeling towards the Gardaí, especially what's going on right now, but they saved my life. I'll always be grateful to that. There's some great people that operate within the Gardaí. I think opted by vested interests. It's been corporatized, and I've been told it was corporatized back in the 1980s, and guards left because of it. But an awful lot of great work in there, and it's not seen. A lot of Gardaí are actually alcoholics, and they have issues. They see what they have to do, and I know firsthand. And I have friends who are guards, so I think we have to win over the guards. I think it's very important that we win them.
Yeah, look, I've
we can't fight against them.
Look, most people are just trying to live their lives. Whether they're a guard, whether they're a nurse, whether they're you or me. They're just in various states of awakenedness and or unawakenedness. That's a very, very traumatic experience. Did it take you? How did you process it we say after the physical injuries had kind of subsided? The mental scarring from something like that must have been, some people could take a lifetime to get over something like that and not get over it. Yet you seem, I've met you in Doolin, and you're this upbeat guy. You're high energy. You're bouncing around the place, and I'm just wondering how did you manage to, pull yourself back?
Yeah, geez, a long journey, man. I started writing a book about it in my camper van there 2 years ago. Journey of a Wounded Healer. I've only got through the preface so far, but I don't have the right time to write the book.
Yeah.
So I was shattered into 1,000 pieces, the only way I can describe it, and very angry for a long time. I've disconnected from society, from my friends. I lost a lot of friends long term because they couldn't connect with me anymore. You know, I evolved into a different sort of person. I went dark for a period of time. I didn't become a criminal, but I could have been. I wanted to go and kill the guy that did it to me. I wanted to take him away. I wanted to bring him up to the mountains and bury him in the fucking ground. You know, and I could have done it. I was very close to doing that, and I had a plan of action. I was going to buy a van up the north of Ireland, come down and do the job, and I was going to get people to do it. And there's plenty that would have done it with me. I decided not to do that. I decided to focus on how I'm going to repair myself and how I'm going to heal from it. And I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did. And I became a healer myself in the process of being healed. And I went to many, many different people. And ultimately, I figured out that the healing is at the spirit level, because that's where the shock and the trauma ultimately resides. It's in the spirit body. The spirit body becomes traumatized when you go through something like that, because what happens is you go back into child mode again, because all of your sense of security in society is completely dissolved. And people walking around, they have a normal sense of security and trust in society, but that all completely left me. And I had PTSD for many, many years. And I'm still healing from the trauma to this day. Sometimes I get convulsions, a shock that comes out of my body, and I don't have any control over it. My head flips all over the place, and I'm coming to the end of a long cycle of healing. The last 2 years have been really tough. And literally shock is jumping out of my body, and I literally have no control over it. It's when I'm relaxed, I can drive a car without any problems. But when I get relaxed in the evening time, my head will jump, and my arm will jump, my back will just jump out of the fucking chair sometimes. And that's just, and I know what's going on. It's actually shock releasing out of the body. It's like a refrag, taking the shock out. Whatever goes in has to come out in some way. And now I help other people to heal from shock, because I done it again at the weekend. And story I actually want to tell about the temple. If you know the temple, if you heard about Lisa's experience, did you hear about Lisa up in Dublin and what happened to her?
No.
Lisa Temple has had a house with her ex-husband up in Blackrock, and she's a friend of mine since last year. And she woke up at 9:30 on Thursday morning last week with 16 balaclavaed men at the end of her bed.
What?
Her house. Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah, and they were Ukrainian soldiers. Okay, and so what's happening in this country now is that the sheriff's office are now hiring soldiers as mercenaries to evict people from their homes. And she was thrown around the room. She was punched. Her daughter was taken out of her room. They were filmed with cameras. They were thrown down the stairs. They were thrown out in the street. She tried to protect herself with a taser that she had. And the Irish Times wrote an article on it to say that they were swapping paperwork out in the street, and that she was using a taser to try and take out the bank official, who was a mercenary, Ukrainian mercenary, who punched her in the ribs and damaged her spleen. And the state is treating her like a criminal, and she's out on bail at the moment. And she's actually going into court tomorrow. She has to sign on every day in the Blackrock guard station. This is a crime against the Irish women and children of the most grievous type. And we are looking at a lawless state now, where that the people that are in charge are literally have absolutely no compunction whatsoever to do whatever the hell they like to get people out of their property. This is not a house where she was a squatter or where she was up to dodgy dealings. It was a home that her ex-husband put a mortgage on in her name before they split up, and she was in dialogue and through the court was ignored by the court and ignored the sheriff's office, and they were waiting for their temple. They literally walked in the door at 9:30 in the morning with no warning whatsoever, and terrified the life out of her. I spent 2 days releasing shock from her body so she doesn't end up with chronic PTSD for God knows how many days, only back. And that's where we're
Sounds
at.
horrific.
And I really need to. Horrific. I know, it's frightening. And if they're allowed to get away with this, they're going to keep doing it, and they're going to get more confident in doing it. And we're back to the black and tan situation where they're burning people out of their houses, just doing it in a different way. They're going in, they're throwing people out on the streets, and they're putting cameras on the house. And we've got soldiers from the Ukraine sitting in his houses, in the houses for vested interests.
Now, tell me, you say soldiers from the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Are they recent arrivals, or are they people that were already here?
I don't have an answer for that, but all I know is that they told her that they were Ukrainian soldiers. That's what they said. And she said,
okay.
I'm sure that the Gardaí would have a problem with that. And they said the Gardaí are working with us. That's what they said.
Yeah.
So there's elements within the Gardaí that are now acting as rogue elements within the Gardaí. They're acting as criminals. And as I said, I have a huge amount of respect for the Gardaí that have integrity and that are working with the other people. But I have no respect for Gardaí that are turning a blind eye to what's going on right now in this country. And a lot of the Gardaí are doing that. They're turning a blind eye. And one of the Gardaí there was a Gardaí involved with this. One of them was her ex-partner, who's the most recent partner she had from the breakup with her husband, who was involved in this episode as well.
Wow.
So there's serious criminality. Yes. So she made a complaint to his station in Blackrock. The daughter's after giving witness testimony today, and they're not going to get away with this, Jerry. I'm telling you now, they're not going to get away with it. Not getting away with it. It's not happening. Because if we leave them away with it, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And this Ukrainian lady, because she tried to taser him, but the men here are weak. That's what he said. And we're not weak. What we are, we're decent human beings. And what we've been doing up till now is expecting the law to operate as law. And now we're seeing there is no law. There's no law anymore. That's where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is it's hard to credit that could go on.
Yeah.
So I suppose, James, your occupation or your livelihood as a natural health therapist, it's basically it's evolved out of that trauma from your kidnapping, or would you look at it like that? Do you look at it that way in terms of you found the path? This path is part of you've obviously healed yourself. The healing process. I'm sure is ongoing, but it's. I suppose what I'm asking is, do you think you'd still have found your path to natural health therapist if what happened to you that night didn't happen?
I don't think so, Jerry. I was a lot about town, I was a bit of a ladies' man when I was in my early 20s, and I enjoyed going out with a group of lads and having a bit of crack and the banter and dancing and studied IT in college, and I had aspirations of possibly going to London or America, and I was earmarked for management in within 2 years of the company I was working with, to have the personality that would suit, and because of the trauma, the shock, I had to leave to get out of the country for a start, because there's international news what happened to me, so I had to leave. So I went to Australia, and then I came back, and I just was suffering so badly with PTSD that, I could never go back to the way I was before. You just can't go back there, because your whole perception of reality completely changes, changes. But I look at it from the point of view that, as horrific as what I experienced was, I was supposed to have that experience, because I wouldn't have studied what I studied to do what I'm doing now. And the versatility of what I've studied pretty much everything you can think of, and I like to summarize everything. I don't go into a huge amount of detail. I could summarize logically what subjects are and get some sort of general understanding of what the subject is, and apply that then to my life. And if I can help anybody else with what I've studied, then great. And that's what I'm doing with, like, the common law kind of falls in with what's happening right now in relation to people need to protect their assets and their livelihoods and their future, and then the music all connects in with it too. And
look, I dare say the music part of the healing process. You're playing of it.
Oh,
like
God,
you play music as well.
Yeah, like, I mean, my musical journey, I'm a recording artist too. I'm an IMRO member. I recorded an album in 2008, and it was all about it was a cathartic recording of an expression of what I experienced. It all went into the album. You know, I had a son afterwards, and I felt very blessed. And his face as a young boy, he's on the cover, and had all angels in the background and all sorts of stuff. And I kind of went, Jesus, I went from this to being a father, and I thought this was a beautiful thing. And it showed me the blessings that life can give you. And just having him in my life helped me hugely to heal as a young man, and kept me grounded where I probably could have gone down, you know, drugs and alcohol to a serious level, like, you know. And I suppose I see him as a gift, and he inspired me to write music, and other things around that event and other aspects of my life inspired me to write music. And I'm a composer as well as a songwriter, and I classically trained on the piano, and, you know, but I like to work with other people. I don't like just to be on my own with music. I'd like to collaborate. I love collaboration.
Well, it sounds like you like to collaborate in all areas of your life, and given what you do, given your activism, you were in Meath. Yeah, I remember I sent you a text yesterday. You were up in Meath somewhere, and you seem to be how much, like, you seem to be you seem to be going 90 miles an hour in stuff. Is that part, like, is that just who you are as a person? Is that you're out, you just enjoy meeting people and stuff like that?
It's after accelerating, Jerry, in the last 3 months. It's really after accelerating for me. I'm just needed certain places. I get in the car and I go, I'm given enough the amount of work that I need to pay for, you know, to my life and to get around. And that's what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm a people connector. That's what I am. I go and I meet people, I listen to people, I love people, and I try to get the best out of people and have conversations and dialogue. And I will say, oh, you should talk to Paul, you should talk to Tom, you should talk to Mary, you should talk whoever, and link them all up. And I'm in a magical place in my life. What can I say? It's magical. Like, it's pure magic around me. I just call it the blessings. I have blessings every day. I have music in my head every morning when I wake up, to songs I'm learning that life. And my life has become like a musical. I'm just going off, and I'm in the car, and I have a lovely Audi A6. I'm blessed to have that. And I'm getting an A5 shortly, another even nicer car. And I'm just spinning around Ireland, this beautiful island. I have a camper van as well, and when it gets a bit warmer, I'll be heading off and that. Oh, that's another thing. We need to get a camper van fucking convoy going to this country and up and all over the place. Pick a zone and just fucking head there and just mix and have a crack and have a sing-song together around fucking fires, just like they did 1,000 years ago. And the magic will just happen. That's what I'm doing. That's what I was doing today. So, like, the last 3 days, I've been up to Meath. I've been over to British Bay or Liechtenstein, and I've been. Then I went down to the mountains in the Cumber and Mahon Falls, and I linked up with people there. They came from Tipperary, and we got to see the land. There's 10 acres of land. There's going to be a festival there. The Munster IPA Festival is going to happen. It's going to call it the IPA Festival, not the Munster IPA. It's going to be called the IPA. That's what we're doing. There's a festival there last year. I'm just going to continue on from that. It's all, there's no hard work anymore. It's just happening. Every time I get in the car and I go places, it's just an extension of something else. Like I was with Jim Miller yesterday, and he told me, well, we'll go over here and we'll have a meeting with this person, and they're the ones that can grow the hemp, and that's a permaculture person, and this person over here can work out how we can develop our own nation, and we can have our own passports and our own driver's licenses, and we can be internationally recognized with the Hague. And it's just all fucking magic. Like, it's just all happening the way it's supposed to. You know, if the travelers can do it, we can do it. We can set up our own nation. They have internationally recognized as an ethnic group, and I'm from an ethnic group, and so are you, that goes back into prehistory. That's the way I see it. I've studied ancient Ireland. I tell stories about ancient Ireland. I've done it at festivals, and I tell stories of big steak, and I going to stick around and I tell stories about ancient Ireland, the Malaysian invasions, and so on and so on. And it's all magical stuff. And we're surrounded by magic in this side. It's fucking magical, like. And it's only because that other people have decided to take charge of what we need to survive. It's made us feel like it's not magical. But everything fucking grows here. And it's a beautiful place, like.
No, I agree with you. And there's COVID's been a blessing in the sense in the sense of awakening. People that have awoken are really awake now. They're questioning everything. So I would say someone like you must notice that, who was, probably, like, we all recognize the financial crisis and what it did there. Now, if it had affected me, just didn't affect me as I know people personally that are still paying the cost of that. But you must have seen an acceleration from what a message is, probably similar messages you're trying to get out for 10 years. There's a much more receptive audience for it now. Would that be your impression too? Like, there's a bigger audience for us now.
Absolutely. Personally, I lost my fiance, I lost my business, and I lost my connections with my family with COVID. It destroyed me in every possible way. Destroyed me. I was absolutely desolate there for some period of time. I suffered with loneliness and isolation. My own father locked me out of my family home on Christmas Eve. He was so paranoid about COVID and rang the guards on me because I was ringing the doorbell trying to get in to see my fucking mother who has Alzheimer's, right? It's gone completely crazy, right? It's just, that was as low as it got for me there. After bouncing right back out of there now, and we're after moving into the 6 months of light, which is the spring equinox, and everything has accelerated since then. And we have 6 months to generate incredible energy. And yes, you're 100% correct. We have an audience of people that are ready to receive ideas and run with them all, because the same word for crisis is opportunity in Chinese, so they say. I don't speak Chinese, but that's what they say. So I have seen that, and there's been many blessings from COVID. When I look back, absolutely there has been. We have an opportunity here to reimagine our whole lives, and it's not just a bunch of hippies getting together. I'm not a hippie. I'm nowhere near a hippie. Some people say they call me kind of a hippie because I've got a camper van, right? But I'm not a hippie, right? I just play guitar, and I have a camper van, and I like music and stuff. But I like things that most settled people like, and the people that I'm connected with now, they're not hippies either. Like, some of them have long hair, most of them don't. Some have beards, most of them don't.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of what's going on.
Yeah, I can relate to a good bit of what you're saying. Like, I agree with most of what you're saying there. I just don't get as much. I haven't had as much opportunity to kind of dive into it as you have, we'll say. But in the last 6 months or so. Look, James, I suppose we've been nattering on here for an hour and 40 minutes. So I normally draw to a close around now, but I just wanted to ask: is there anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about, or is there anything you wanted to get off your chest, or X, Y, or Z?
Well, the only thing, like, for me, it's like it's the story of the imaginative cells. So you have the you have the caterpillar. The caterpillar eats all around it. It devours everything. And then when it's ready, it just knows when it's ready, goes into its chrysalis, and it dissolves itself. And so I believe that we're in that dissolution period now, or after tipping over into the creation from the dissolution. So the imaginative cells are that's where they are now. They're coming together in this magical way. And the butterfly is being created. We just have to have some patience, and we're going to get there, and it's going to be magical when we come out the other side. I was up in Greystones there yesterday, and it was a beautiful day, and my little dog Jez was running in the park, and random people came up and were admiring my dog, as they always do. And I just got talking to her about why I'm in Greystones, and didn't go into detail about what happened with Lisa Temple, but you know, just in general, positive stuff and my activism and different things. And I said, people don't know what's going on the streets. There's people in their droves building a dual system right now. And the girl, Magdalena, an Eastern European, said, really? I said, yeah. I said, this is what's happening. I said, you won't see it for a while. It's still happening. It's coming. You're going to have opportunities to go on retreat in the most beautiful environment and forests, different places where we'll have retreat centers, and we'll have kids being taught in nature, and we'll have mini farms there, men's sheds, women's sheds. We'll have ceremonial spaces for people to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and all sorts of fire pits, and it'll be fucking magical. And she was like, her eyes just wide open. I said, really? I said, when's this happening? I said, it's happening right now. I said, we just have to get organized, but it's something you can't rush. But when it happens, it's going to be magical, and the people from all around the world are going to want to come and visit. And what we're going to do is we're going to reach out to the diaspora. There's 50 million of them around the world, and we're going to ask them to come and connect in with the Irish people, and we're going to welcome them, and we'll do it in the most beautiful way. Céad Míle Fáilte, 100,000 welcomes. That's the way we're going to do it. Simple as that. And that's what we've always done. That's what we're known for globally, and that's the message I want to leave for people. It's let's create a cultural revolution together, not with violence, not with pushback, not trying to go and take over anything. There's nothing to take over. There's nothing to take over. The system is just devolving. It's devolving. It's spiraling down. We all know it. All we have to do is step up and just be creators. And that's what you call the weekend, the Search of Creators weekend. And it was brilliant. And you're on the money. You know exactly what needs to be done. My hat's off to you. I'm not wearing one, but if it was, it would be.
James, that's a good place to end, and a nice synopsis of what's going on and what you're about there. So I appreciate your time. I know it's a Sunday evening now and all that, but really great to talk to you. And again, if I or anything I'm involved with can be of help to you, just you know how to reach out to me.
Absolutely. All I ask you to do is just to keep doing what you're doing, man, and we'll just all keep meeting up, and it's organically happening. And if you've got a camper, let's all just meet up someplace, and you'll be invited to the IPA festival. Anyways, you're going to be one of them. Even though you're not in Munster, we'll still invite you.
Very good, very good. Rightio, we'll just end the broadcast. That's so, James, and maybe you can stick around for a second afterwards. And